Hold on a minute.
It says live.
Yeah, it says live.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, there we go. We're
There
going
we
to start
go.
off our podcast or our live today with a little complication. I have error messages over here.
Well, I'm going to get us started. So,
Okay.
hello, audience. We have a very special treat for y'all today. And this is mainly for construction executives or construction owners and executives. And what we're going to be hearing about is how to make your work or make your business work for you, increase your bottom line, and this is the biggie one, how to take a 4-week vacation. I cannot wait to hear more.
Taking your life back, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is, taking your life back. And being in the construction industry for 30 years, I can tell you that it's really easy to get bombarded with all the things and really forget that you have a personal life. So I'm so excited to have Dr. Sabrina and Kristen here today to discuss how to make a profit, right? Because we have a business psychologist on here. And we're going to talk about taking our lives back, and we're going to talk about a 4-week vacation. But we're also going to hit on how to hire the best. And Dr. Sabrina has put together a program on how to do that, especially if you're in manufacturing, construction, and industrials spaces. So really excited about that. And welcome to both of you for being on our live today.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
So we're going to start with the first things first. Kristen, tell us how you and Dr. Sabrina met, because that story is pretty cool.
I was actually on the Women Talk Construction podcast last July, and one of my colleagues who had worked with Dr. Sabrina forwarded my podcast to her and said, hey, you need to listen to her because she likes culture and all of this kind of stuff, and I think that y'all would get along really well. So that was the introduction. It was really cool that being on a podcast got me on another podcast and got me to meet Dr. Sabrina, and as a result read her book. We have a lot of things in common. We both are big fans of Mike McAllowitz, so we were able to speak like that language, and so that was really how we got connected to begin with.
So Dr. Sabrina, after hearing her podcast, what did you think? What made you want to reach out to Kristen? I'm just curious.
Oh my goodness. I was blown away by what she was doing for culture in her company. We at Tap the Potential are all about creating great places to work. And that means working on yourself as a leader. Kristen is a coach by nature, but she's also been trained as a coach. So she brings that into her leadership at Southern Crafted Shutters. And I heard her telling these stories about ground up, like how she just built culture from simple things that she was doing, unconventional things, but things that weren't expensive, things that weren't hard, but that were really impacting her team members and helping with retention and just their overall engagement. So that was really intriguing to me. The other reason, though, that I wanted to talk to her is, I mean, she has a bubbly personality.
She does.
I can't wait to see all that unfold here for us today. And I was looking for a guinea pig on my podcast, the Profit by Design podcast. And I sensed that Kristen might be up for trying something with me. We've been running the Profit by Design podcast for 5 years, but I've never coached live on the podcast. And I've never coached someone who's totally unfamiliar to me. So I reached out to Kristen and I said, let's have a conversation. And then I asked, would it be all right if I coached you? And we were trying to figure out, kind of what would be the thing. Well, Kristen and her husband both own this company, and they've never had good opportunity to be away for a long stretch of time, both of them in the business at the same time. So that's the typical business owner experience, by the way, is not being able to take a vacation and fully unplug from the business. And we need that for our mental health. And that's what I did. I coached her on this, on the Profit by Design podcast. And Kristen is a phenomenal coachee, and she came out of that and is taking massive action. I don't want to spoil that. That's her story to share.
Yeah, I think we actually saw some of her posts later on. That explains it, talking about how she had learned a lot.
Yes. Yes, a lot.
Well, we'll dive right on into that then. Kristen, can you tell us how the teachings of Dr. Sabrina has helped you, impacted you and your business?
Yeah, so we talked in January, and then in February was the end of February was the International Builder Show. And that was going to be the first time that we went away. And Dr. Sabrina is like, you all need to take the full week as a vacation. Like, you can't call in or anything. So it was a big deal because we've both taken off time individually, but never together. So we prepped prior to leaving, and what was really cool was the team was actually very excited for us to go, not like get out of here, right? But they knew all about this. So I'm very transparent with our team and told them about how like our goal is to eventually take a 4-week vacation, not because we want to go like, sit on the beach drinking Mai Tais, but rather because we want the business to be able to run all by itself. Like, and I think that sometimes people get confused about what the purpose is, but the purpose is that the business can run without you, so that if something were to happen and you couldn't come in, or you had to take care of somebody else and you weren't able to do it, the business doesn't stop, right? So I think that's an important part to remember. One of the things that Dr. Sabrina challenged me with was I couldn't take back something that I had delegated. And this was probably the hardest part, because up until this point, I was doing the schedule, and she said, and I remember it very distinctly, would you rather do coaching of somebody else, or would you rather be doing the schedule? And I said, well, obviously I'd rather be doing the coaching. And she said, then you can't take back the schedule. So here's one of my updates, is that I have not been doing the schedule since coming back. So John has been doing it. And in fact, this morning, I went over to see what was on the list, and the stuff was still from Friday. So I erased it, and I was about to like write what could be. And I said, nope. And I walked away. And so it was just blank. And so when John came in, he did it. And that's been really it's been freeing. I still want to jump in. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is where I think it's important for other people
It's hard.
going through this should also understand, right? It doesn't mean that it's easy. I still have to catch myself, but it is very freeing to know that I have a team that can do this. And when we got back, so the podcast with Dr. Sabrina ran while we were at IBS. And so my team listened to it while we were gone. And they had prepared, they're like, and Mary had said to John, she goes, you know that we're going to have to do a debrief. So when I got back, they had a whole list. Like, they were ready for our debrief meeting before I didn't even say we're going to have it. But because that's the initiative that the team takes when they realize that they have that much power. So
Nice.
It's really, really freeing. It's great.
Yes. And so I want to throw out there that Kristen has made the 4-week vacation pledge, and they are planning a 4-week vacation. So this is leading up to being able to fully unplug for 4 weeks. And the reason that just to build on what Kristen said, the reason you want to be able to unplug for 4 weeks is that's usually a full business cycle happens within 4 weeks. Like, you sell something, you deliver something, money gets collected. That whole cycle, if it can happen without the business owner present, then you have a business that's sustainable and has value and can be sold at a higher value because of that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I got to enjoy was the first week with Kristen away from her business. We were at IBS this year. And so it was pretty interesting to watch the roller coaster of emotions go through Kristen, like while she tried to enjoy herself and try to, really focus on things that mattered in the future, but also I don't know that she was really concerned, but you could tell that it was an underlying, this is unusual for me kind of thing. I don't think she was really concerned. I was really proud of her, because I think that would be really hard to do, especially in the situation. Running a manufacturing company is somewhat very non-traditional anyway, right? As a female, and we as females tend to want to take charge of all the things. And so it was just really cool to be with Kristen on the first week that she actually walked away from the manufacturing plant and enjoyed her week. And really, it was a work week. She was doing a lot of exploration and research as to whether or not she wanted to be at IBS the next time. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I was able to be with her during that time.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw that too on social. in her post. So
And we did not
baby
fall.
Did
steps.
you see our 360 video where we were dancing
Yes,
at the
I
84
saw that
lumber
too.
booth?
It was
Yep.
fun. We enjoyed it.
We did.
So the next question's for Dr. Sabrina. And first, I'm going to read a testimony that someone wrote in. And Dr. Nancy, she says, I thought I was a good boss. I thought I was a great businesswoman, but my staff seemed to hate me, and my stress level was through the roof. After being with Tap the Potential, I have assembled an A-team staff who works from their strengths, loves their jobs, and has decreased my stress by 90%. That's pretty impactful statement she just made.
Yes.
So, can you share with us some example or samples of simple ways to be aware of team dynamics and maybe even how to change that? How Dr. Nancy was able to change it.
Yeah, I want to share Dr. Nancy's story. She's given me permission to speak about this.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's going to be the most illuminating. So she had grown her business and had 2 locations, multiple team members. And that is the traditional symbol of success. Like the bigger we can make our business, the more revenue we can bring in, the more locations, the more team members, the more trucks on the road, all the things, right? And it was really impacting her stress level. And when she came to us, she wanted to downsize to become more profitable. And that's what we really focused on. And we looked at where is the sweet spot of the business. And that meant going back to 1 location, reducing team members. She had a lot of team members that she felt loyalty to. They were not top performing team members. They had been great for the business at a certain period of time, but as a business grows and evolves, our existing team members are not always great for where we need to take the business. So she had to trim her team. That immediately was where her stress level decreased because she had fewer people to oversee. She really got clear on who were the A players that were right for where the business was headed and for her vision. And then we taught her using how to hire the best. We taught her how to hire A players going forward. And one of the things that I am convinced about is that when we have A players on our team, we are better leaders. We look like really bad leaders when we have warm bodies that we're trying to coach and cajole and make them do something that they don't do and they don't perform. And then we start to doubt our leadership and we go down that slippery slope of self-doubt. And the other thing that happens is when we have those warm bodies on our team, we put all of our energy and effort over there and forget to pay attention to our A players. Well, when we shift that dynamic and we stop paying attention to the warm bodies and just work on getting them out and replacing them with A players, and we start putting our attention towards our A players are 900 to 1200% more productive than warm body team members when they're in a role with a clearly defined result that aligns with their strengths. So that's a key piece of what we teach in the How to Hire the Best course. And so that helped her with her leadership. She started to feel a lot more confident as a leader as her A players were stepping up and taking responsibility. Her team members went through our leadership boot camp course, which is designed to help A players learn about the sweet spot of the business and about the business owner needing to be away, and that there should be no critical team member period in the business. Everyone needs to have their roles systematized and be delegatable so that they can be out too. So it's not just the business owner, it's everyone.
Right.
So her team members really learned, like what Kristen is experiencing, her team members step up because they understand a bigger vision of what's going on. And with respect to Dr. Nancy's profitability, payroll is the biggest expense in a business typically. And so when we can reduce our payroll, we are immediately going to be more profitable. And then when we're hiring A players who are 900 to 1200% more productive, we don't need as many team members as we think we need. So this actually allows us to pay higher wages and salaries to our A players because we don't need to have as many team members, which makes us more attractive as an employer of choice for the A players we want. So it's this beautiful self-perpetuating cycle.
That's awesome. Very awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay. and I know we're concentrating a lot on what you're doing, Dr. Sabrina, but I think it's really important. And thank you for sharing all that, because stories really kind of tell, I mean, it just tells a big story, right? A big story about you feel like you're in contact with that particular person. You feel like you can resonate with what's going on with her and her life. And so do the people who work for her. So if you're working for a company right now and you're feeling like you're maybe resentful because your boss is gone, because your boss is like MIA, it may feel like it's MIA, but that particular person in your company needs that space to be able to bring the company to a bigger place, to a better place, to a better future. And so think about that as you're working for a team, and also think about that as you're a team leader, and how you lead, and how you can create a culture like that. So thank you for sharing that story. So there was another thing I saw about you, Dr. Sabrina, on YouTube. It was one of your YouTube videos, and it was the courage you need to get out of your own way. And it was a very short YouTube video, but it was really cool. And you asked a question as you closed your talk and invited members to share their responses. And the question was, assuming you have all the courage you need, what action could you take that would have the greatest impact on your life? There was an answer that moved you.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
that?
So I spoke at QuickBooks Connect, and I closed my session with that powerful question. And I invited people in the audience to come up to me if they saw me throughout the conference and just share their answers with me. And I was really touched by what people were sharing with me. They were incredibly vulnerable. And one of the stories that was shared with me is a woman who had been in a very difficult relationship for an extended period of time. This was a relationship with someone who had mental illness. She felt a tremendous sense of responsibility for maintaining that relationship and keeping the business going. So what really stood out to me about her experience is that we show up and do business, and we all have personal lives. Our personal lives always impact how we do business, and how we do business always impacts our personal lives. It's a back and forth connection. And I'm always blown away as I talk with professional women when I hear the backstory of what's going on in life and what we're juggling. The statistics on burnout for women, depending on what study you look at, 43 to 61% of professional women are burning out. Now, my research on entrepreneurial burnout shows that 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs are burning out. So if you're a woman, you're at high risk for burnout. If you're a woman entrepreneur, you are at very high risk for burnout. And so I think we have to remember that what goes on in life impacts us, and we're in multiple roles, and we have role strain and stresses that come in every direction. So she shared with me that her courageous action was to leave that relationship. And when she did, that person committed suicide. And I thought, it's shocking to hear that. It's really hard to hear that. And so I asked her, I said, tell me what happened for you after that. And she said, I feel so free. And it was letting go of her sense of being responsible for another human being. That was the freeing part. And it was tremendous. It was tragic what happened to her partner. And at the same time, she recognized it was not her responsibility to prevent that. She could no longer carry that burden. And what she said was, no one ever helped me think through what was on the other side if I made this choice. All I could focus on was the horrible thing that was going to happen, possibly based on my decision. And she said, what's on the other side for me? There's so many opportunities. There's so many possibilities that have opened up, so much support I've received that I had walled myself off from by holding this secret and holding this shame of what I was dealing with. Her business has grown. It's expanded. She's pursuing new opportunities. She's grown as a person. She's gone through a lot of her own therapy because of what she went through. And so I offer this to everyone listening that, when you hear that question, assuming you have all the courage you need, what action could you take that would have the greatest impact on your life? chances are your answer comes up immediately. My answer, when I first heard that, scared the heck out of me. I avoided it for multiple years. When I took my courageous action, it was life-changing, and it was really, really hard, and I am so much better. My life is so much better for it. So we have to
Yay.
look at how are we getting in our own way, and everything that we learn as human beings about our life, we bring into being better leaders in our businesses. She learned to quit being responsible for her team members' feelings and, all that people pleasing
Yeah.
that women get drawn into. That was a part of what she learned too, is she had to be a different kind of leader.
Yes. Well, one of the things too, and I don't want to downgrade the conversation that we just finished up, but I want to go back to the statistics. So one of the things that you said is if you're a woman and an entrepreneur, you you have a higher risk of burnout. But you don't have to be an entrepreneur. I just want to put that out there, right?
Yes.
You can work for a company, run a department, and try to create your own environment, your own team, and that is the same as being an entrepreneur. I just don't want to leave those folks out that are listening. If you're a superintendent on a job site and you're running a job site, people are working for you. You're putting a schedule together. You're creating an environment for those people, but also an environment of success. That also is equivalent to being an entrepreneur. I'm just going to mention that one particular spot, but if you're in any role where you're a leader, you're having to make decisions, it affects you just as much. And I just don't want to leave those folks out of that conversation. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that story. Stories are so great. I love the most the courage you need to get out of your own way. Like I need to tape that on my mirror in the morning. I need to have the courage to get out. I feel like I am my biggest critic, and I'm also my biggest I'm always talking myself into staying in a situation because I don't, in my mind, I feel like I'm giving up. So I feel like I'm in my own way a lot. So it's really great to see that. And thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely, those stats, I was probably part of those stats back at my family business, but I'm happy to say that I'm not anymore, and life is so much better. We won't get into all that right now, but I can totally relate. So my next question is for Dr. Sabrina again, and you've written a lot of books, and we just heard of several, but could you tell us about your passion to help others, and especially for those in the construction industry, because we do take a lot on and we have a lot going on, and a lot of them are small, even family-owned businesses. So tell us how you go about that and what's your passion?
So my passion comes from me being the third generation in my family impacted by entrepreneurship. Like
Okay.
I grew up in hustle culture. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He owned service stations. And then one day he got the idea to sell more gas. He would put up a big screen on the back roof of one of his filling stations. And he offered purchasers of 5 gallons of gas a free ticket to the show. And that
Wow.
idea clicked, and they had so many cars on the parking lot, the attendants couldn't get to the pumps to pump the gas. And so immediately they needed more help. And everyone in the family went to work in the business, including my dad, who was about 12 years old at the time. So those businesses, as successful as they were, really took over the family's lives because everyone was working in the business. So as a child myself, I watched my dad working from before sunup to after sundown every day, 7 days a week, grinding it out. And that's what I learned life was: work hard. And so when I went to graduate school, I was writing a dissertation, I was doing a practicum, I was taking classes, I was working at the community college. I mean, everything. And I was a hot mess of anxiety. And so when I started my own business, I was determined that I would build a business that supports my life. That's my mission. And I saw my business owner clients struggling so much with their work-life balance and team members. And I thought at first that my first take on why are business owners so busy, I thought they were workaholics. Well, yes, there is a level of that in there, but that's not the whole story. It's really because we don't have team members that we feel like we can count on. So we carry all the responsibility on our shoulders. And I thought if I could help these business owners hire better team members, they would have the opportunity to take a break. I wasn't even thinking about a 4-week vacation at that time. I just thought, wow, they could just take a
They just
vacation.
need a break.
And so I started digging into the hiring challenges. And back then, there were no books written for small business owners on hiring. There were books like Top Grading, which really requires an entire HR department to effectively execute. When you're the business owner, you are the HR department plus everything else, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I really looked at, I have to make this simple. I have to make this doable that a small business owner can execute on this, or that their team can execute on for them. And so I started interviewing small business owners who had A players on their team. And I thought, if I can find these business owners who have these A players and they can tell me their story, I could figure out the system. And the crazy thing was, whenever I would ask them if I could interview them, because I said, I want to write a book about how to hire A players. And they all said, yes, I have A players on my team, but no, I don't want you to interview me. And I was like, why? Why won't you give me an interview? And I got the same response over and over. And that was, well, I have 1 or 2 A players, but if I lost them, Dr. Sabrina, I have no idea how I'd replace them, because every time I hire, I feel like I'm shooting in the dark. I don't know what I'm going to get. And he said, and they would say, if you could figure this out and come back and tell me, that would be awesome. So I finally just said, look, just tell me the story of how Mary came to work for you, or Joe, or, whoever. And so I started collecting all these stories. And it was through collecting those stories that I started to notice there was a system. And really what they were doing is they were doing a combination of really good networking. But the other thing that I was recognizing is that A players have a different psychology than the typical team member, and that our traditional hiring practices that all of us have grown up with, where you have an opening, you're really busy, so you throw a job ad together, you get some people, hopefully you get some applications, you look through those applications and pick the best ones of those applications, and then you invite them in for an interview, and the person who interviews the best, that's who you offer the job to. Those are the traditional hiring practices. Well, they set us up to mishire 75% of the time, because we are fishing in the wrong pond to begin with. A players are rarely unemployed. They're rarely reading job ads, not scrolling through Indeed looking for jobs.
Yes.
And so what we really have to do is position ourselves as employers of choice and be in front of the A player networks and attract those A players. And so that's how the How to Hire the Best series was written. When I wrote the first How to Hire the Best book, it was targeting rural business owners, because I was in a rural area and I thought this was a rural problem. And I started getting phone calls from business owners all over the country saying, I'm in New York, but I have this problem too. Do you think it would help me? Or you could help me? And I said, I don't know. Let's see. And the other thing that I noticed is a lot of them were in the construction industry. And so that's how I came to write my next book in the How to Hire the Best series. And it's The Contractor's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members. This book blew me away, because in a couple of days, it became an international bestseller.
So needed.
Wow.
How did this book become an international bestseller? Well, it became an international bestseller because the construction industry definitely needs help with hiring. And I had business owners in other industries buying the book, sharing the book, and saying, do you think this will work for chiropractors? Do you think this will work for real? When I wrote the next one, which is The Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, I'd love to hear your input. Okay, so I know you don't have all of the schooling that Dr. Sabrina does, but you are doing a lot of the work that Dr. Sabrina is doing, and you have an amazing team. How can you give us some input there too about how helping others in the construction industry has really been a passion of yours as well? And why do you do it? I see you do it all the time. You do it naturally. People don't ask you. You just hey, I know how to help you with that. Tell us how it has affected you and your business and you personally.
Well, like you said, I just like connecting and I like helping people. So it ends up just being wherever I am. And so now that I'm in the construction industry, I end up being around construction people. So I like helping construction people. And one of the things that is fascinating for me is how many people, when I tell them that I'm going to eventually do my 4-week vacation and that I took my 1 week, they're like, I could never do that. I'm like, yes,
Yes,
you
you
can.
can.
Right? There's this huge, I don't know, there's some kind of like pushback for it. In fact, while we were at IBS, I talked to two different people. We were out with the Home Builders Association, and I was telling them that that's what we were doing because they were on their phones, right? They were trying to, it was like 7 o'clock at
Yeah.
night and they had to finish something up. And I go, I'm not doing that. And they're like, well, I could never do it like you. And I go, you could. You just have to learn how, and you have to make a decision that this is what's best for you. Because it was so like, I think one of the things is when you finally experience how you can do it for yourself, you want to share that with other people because it is so freeing. In fact, I'm pretty sure, Christy, I told you that I was not going to respond to you on like a Sunday night when you send me emails because
Yep.
I will not do it. And you said, but I have
And you're
to. And I
such a
said, but
good
you don't
friend.
have to.
So
Call you out.
every time I do that now, she calls me out. But really and truthfully, we do need those accountability partners in our life, right? Like there's been so many things that Kristen's like, you're not doing that. Let somebody else do it. You have a whole team. We work on a nonprofit board together. And she's like, we have a whole team of that. Why are you doing that? That is not your job. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yes.
That's my partner.
Yes.
That's what my job is here, right? But
So there are very few emails that go out in the middle of the night now. There's a few.
Oh, there's some.
There's some, but not as many as there used to be. Not at all. So thank you for that, Kristen.
Goes back to what Dr. Sabrina was saying, right? Like as women, we feel like we have to do all of the things. And I will say that I feel like there's more pushback from women who say, I couldn't just let it go than there are from men. So that it is both, right? But I think there's this need to really do this job. And one of the things that Dr. Sabrina had mentioned in her book that I thought was really helpful was trying to figure out which job you should be doing. So it starts with like the $10 job and the $100 job and the $1,000 job and the $10,000 job. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how much that job is specifically worth. I had to clarify that for Adam. I was like, it doesn't mean that if you do this that you should be getting paid $10,000 right now. I mean, it would be nice, but like, you know, let's just think about it. But in general, when you say, what's the first thing that I can release? It should be that $10 job, right? And so I feel like I've gotten to the point where the great majority of the $10 jobs that I was doing 3 years ago, I have been able to delegate. And then you move up to that 100. And a lot of the things, now the 10,000 are where you should be, right? Like so as a business owner, you should be
building
be
your
doing
future.
the visions, and you should be doing the goal setting, and you should really figure out what is the strategic direction of the company. And so getting back to like working with construction, I think one of the other things I've been very fortunate is that I came from corporate for a long time. So I have this influence that I don't think a lot of small business owners have had. Unlike Dr. Sabrina, nobody in my family is an entrepreneur. We were all corporate people. So that's all I knew. So coming in, there's this, there's this friction between small business owners and corporate. Like they're evil. The other one is always evil. They don't know anything. And I feel like I've had this great opportunity to really to coordinate the two of them, right? So when it comes to culture,
I agree.
One of the things that like having an HR department and learning all of those HR rules at corporate that I can't necessarily do because I don't have a whole team, but why did we do some of the things? What were some of the things that were really beneficial and how can I implement that? And a lot of the people who I meet in the construction business have not had that corporate background. And so I think the whole like when you come from corporate and you've had a 2-week vacation because that's what you've gotten and you learned how to take it because somebody else paid for you.
Right.
It's easier to say now when I do it, I deserve that because I know what that felt like, right? Like I know what it felt like to recharge, to reset, to get my head completely out of it. So coming in, the 4-week vacation idea is not foreign to me because I would have loved it, and I would have totally done that when I was at corporate. I'd be like, oh, they're going to pay. Now it's figuring out how can I do that while still running my business and then having all of that confidence in the team. And really when you have a great team, it's hard not to want to give them the confidence because the team, like they know
like
it by the end of the year. And they said, we're going to get you to 2 weeks. So what do we have to do? And they're so on board when we train them something new, especially since coming back from the 1 week. It's just, Everybody needs to do it. And
I
construction
feel like
especially.
everybody just wants to be a part of it, right?
They do.
And what happens a lot of times as a leader, it just seems like there's a separation, and there really shouldn't be. Just having those conversations as this is the change we're getting ready to make, and this is why. Like that alone has gone so far. Excuse me, for me in the industry is just like explaining, like we have to pivot right now, politics changed or something else has changed, or, some kind of job changed, and we're taking on a different job than we normally would take. And so we have to pivot. And I think the biggest thing we can do is just encourage communication between the leader and the team, and also from the team to the leader. I like to hear my team tell me what they think before I tell them what I think. Right? Because then they have a little buy-in, and they're not focused on what I just said. They're actually telling me what their ideas are. And I really do like that, especially from our ambassadors. So yes, Kristen, thanks a lot for sharing that.
Christy, I'd like to add a little something on this about the team. The average American is leaving 9.5 vacation days unused on the table at the end of every year. And if
That's
this
crazy.
is not just an issue for business owners to take vacation, this really is about everyone on the team being able to take a vacation. And so when we hold on to things that we don't systematize and we don't delegate because it's just too hard to train someone or it would take too much effort, it guarantees that when we're sick, we're going to be bringing our laptops home to work from the couch because the work has to get done. And it also means that when we take vacation, we have to work really hard the week before we go on vacation. I remember when I had a job, not a business owner, but I had a job that I worked 16 hours the day before I took vacation to make sure everything was squared away. And then my stress would be through the roof on the day I was coming back because I knew everything that had piled up while I was gone, I was going to have to deal with. And so when we do what Kristen was saying, where we delegate, we systematize and we delegate, and we don't take it back when we come back, it opens up our opportunity to focus on creating greater value in the business, working from our strengths. So those $10,000 an hour activities, we get to do those things now. And I just want to give the link if anyone wants to download this chart of $10,000 an hour activities. You can get it at tapthepotential.com/10K.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, and the other thing is too, I'm going to go back to what you said about working 16 hours the day before you went on vacation. It takes 3 days to decompress from that. So by the time you're decompressed, you have maybe 1 or 2 days where you feel like you got to relax, and then you're already anxious about coming back. So there's so many reasons. Mental health is the biggest of why you should consider putting processes and systems in place to make your team effective, so that you want your bottom line to be better, right? So that's why we're taking back our life here today on this live event. So Dr. Sabrina, really quickly, when I met you the first time, which was super cool, I met you because Kristen thought that we need to meet, and it definitely has been a blessing to me. You mentioned a goal that you have in mind. I just want you to share that goal with us real quick, what your goal is for your business.
So I really want to create impact in my life, and I want to help entrepreneurs take their lives back. And last year I started thinking about, how will I know when I'm ready to retire? How will I know I've had an impact on the Work Supports Life movement? And what occurred to me is that if I can get 10,000 entrepreneurs to take a 4-week vacation in the next 10 years, that to me is making a huge impact, because I know entrepreneurs are trailblazers. And so Kristen and her husband, they're going to take a 4-week vacation, and their team is going to get excited about this. And Kristen, being the kind of leader she is, she's going to come back and she's like, I want my team to have this kind of experience. So she's going to get to working on making sure that everyone in the business has the opportunity to take fully unplugged vacations.
Yes.
And I think that is what's going to transform our workplaces, where they become places that are life-giving instead of life-taking. So I'm leaning on all the entrepreneurs out there. I need you guys to be the trailblazers. And
so 9,999. We're going to have you back on the show. Okay. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to celebrate it together.
Well,
let's do it.
Yes, I would love that. And I want to share where you can take the pledge for the 4-week vacation. Go to tapthepotential.com/pledge. And if you're thinking, I'm nowhere near that, I can't do a 4-week vacation. If you have steady lead generation in your business, you can be at a point of taking a 4-week vacation in 18 to 24 months. And our team throws out all the stops to help you and support you. So when you take the pledge, you're going to be contacted by one of our team members who's going to say, all right, what are your challenges in taking some unplugged vacation? And they're going to send you resources. We have tons of resources, and there's no charge for this. That's how committed we are to this mission.
Yes.
We want entrepreneurs to succeed in taking a 4-week vacation.
Well, an audience, I just want you to know there are several people that we've been able to talk to that have done this program, and they're ranting and raving about how great it is. And Kristen's one of them. That's why we had her on today. This is not just a commercial. We want you to take your life back. Angela and I talk to people every single day that are in our industry that are struggling with burnout every single day. This is not something that happens once in a while. This is an every single day. And if you talk to 20 people in the same day, at least 19 of them are struggling with burnout. So this is why we wanted to have this live today. We care about you. We care about your mental health. And thank you, Dr. Sabrina, for having such a lofty goal. We really appreciate it. I think Angela's got another question for you, Dr. Sabrina.
Yeah,
or
and I wanted to
Kristen.
mention something. When I was in my family business, the thing I did do this right. I learned that a lot of my people weren't taking vacations, and of course, I wasn't probably doing a good job at it, but I started to be better at it, but I made sure that they did it. And I think a lot of times when the leader actually emphasizes take a vacation, because we were a pretty well-oiled machine, moving through, they did it. They feel freedom around that. If the leader says do it and they see them doing it, they're going to do it. And the other thing I did want to ask Kristen to share a little bit more about this. I do have another question, but Kristen, I think it would be helpful for the audience to know exactly like how long you've been in business and how many people are in your company, that work for you, because those were the two stats you didn't say. And I feel like our audience would like to hear that.
So we've been in this business since 2019, so 5 years. Do math.
Yeah.
5 years. So we're in our fifth. Currently, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people on our team. We are mostly part time. So John works full time, but everybody else is part time. We have students. So we work with the local career center. So we have somebody. We're actually going to be interviewing a new student. Because our current student is going to be going away for the summer. So we're going to lose him. But Zion, who's on our team, for example, started when he was a junior, and he is now it's 3 years. He's going to be celebrating 3 years with us in September, and he is now at Greenville Tech. So it's a great way that you can work with. So one of the other things that I love is mentoring, which goes with the coaching and all of that kind of stuff, right? And I love the opportunity to take somebody who has never had a job before and really help them learn what is what it's like to have a job, and then how and they get credit for their school, and they get paid as they're learning how to do this. And even Zion, going back to what Dr. Sabrina was saying, so even while he's in high school, he was taking on responsibilities, right? So our team, and Bryson, who's our current student who's going to be leaving, like within a couple of weeks, they're leading our meetings and they are doing the things, because I think it's really important for that whole cross training that everybody has to be able to jump in. Now we are learning how to, now we have to cross train for John's position, right? Because he's the one who took over all of the Adam things.
Yeah.
Now we have the two people, like one of them has to be here at all times. So having a small team, it might not, it's sometimes challenging to get all of the cross training depending on what the skill level is. But one of the ways that we've had success in finding A players is to have a flexible schedule. So we're lucky because it's manufacturing,
Nice.
right? So like when it comes to our shop, it's not like nursing, for example, where like somebody has to be on the floor at these times. Like you have to have a set schedule. Because we have a flexible schedule, we've been able to work with students. So John just celebrated his 3 years with us.
Nice.
And the reason he first was able to come was because we could work around his schedule. So sometimes I would love to encourage people, like think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Mary, who's with us, who's down here for 2 years. So she has kids at home. Her husband has like a really wonky schedule. He works for the sheriff's department. And so when we first hired her, she could only do 2 days one week, 3 days the next, 2 days. And then, like, who has that kind of schedule? Well, we said, we love Mary. We will work
We're going
around
to
that
figure it
schedule.
out.
And so we did, right? And now she's got 2 years with us. And as her kids are a little bit older and she's homeschooling, so now she does work from home for a couple of days and works in the office a couple of days. So it's really, I think when you're creative, you can really have a great culture, a great team, and you can really build it. And that's sometimes how you can find those amazing A players. So if it's not the traditional way, right? Like, where are they and what are they looking for and what can you offer that nobody else can? And it's not always salary. Like, we are not at the point for baby business, right? We're not at the point where we pay top dollar, but we have a fantastic team. And if you need a day off because you've got to go and do something, Zion's like, I need to bring my girlfriend to the airport. You go bring your girlfriend to the airport. Like, we're on it. That's what you can get with us.
That means more than money to a lot of people nowadays. Things have changed, right? Culture has changed from when I entered the workforce as to where we're at right now. Like, both my daughters, I have one 34 and 17, and both of them care about their schedule and the time that they have to take care of themselves more than they care about making money. And at first I thought that was very foreign, and I freaked out a little bit. I'm just going to be honest that they both had that mindset, but they're the ones that are always telling me, Mom, you need to slow down. You're going to get sick. Right. And so, and I'm getting better at that. But the fact of the matter is things have changed. Right. And our culture's changed. And Kristen set up a program in her place, in her shutter company, that people want to come to work. And, especially if they don't care as much about money. Obviously, we all need money. Don't get me wrong. We all need a paycheck. But livelihood should be a higher priority. And that's why we're taking our life back today on this video. So we had a lot of other questions to ask, but they all are questions we've talked about already. So you guys have done a great job, like sharing what we needed to share with the audience today. Would you like, let's just start with Dr. Sabrina. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we conclude our conversation today? Okay.
Yes, I have, since 2020, I have been conducting research on the entrepreneurial experience, including entrepreneurial burnout. And what I'm really curious about is how the health of our business and the systems in our business relate to burnout. So I've piloted an assessment. We've had over 600 entrepreneurs take it. We've analyzed the data on 230 of them. And I want to analyze more data. I want to have 1,000 entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And so I would greatly appreciate it if your listeners would take our Better Business, Better Life assessment. You will get your burnout score. You will have the opportunity to receive your customized list of $10,000 an hour activities based on what you say about the health of your business in your assessment. And to show you how appreciative, we will mail you a signed paperback copy of my book, The 4-Week Vacation. When you take the assessment. So everyone listening can take a 4-week vacation now. So take that assessment, go to tapthepotential.com/assessment.
Nice. Thank you, Dr. Sabrina. I appreciate you. And Kristen, we can't finish this conversation without everybody knowing how amazing your shutters are. And this is an ad, by the way. I love Kristen. I love what she's doing. I love that she cares about students and that she's very invested in her community. Dr. Sabrina is too. But I really want to highlight what Kristen's doing. And she can sell her shutters all over the country. This is a very new business. They're beautiful. They install them in certain areas. I don't think they can install them all over the country, but you never know. Knowing how Kristen is, it won't be long before she'll be able to do that. So just when you can go to Southern Crafted Shutters website, take a look, watch her on Instagram. She's amazing. She has a lot of cool videos. She keeps me entertained, which I love. And I'm not a huge Instagram fan. So the fact that I'm liking all of Kristen's stuff tells you something. So really and truthfully, those shutters are amazing. And if you need shutters, I definitely would highly recommend what Kristen's doing. They're beautiful.
And so many creative ways to use them.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Really cool ways.
I love it.
Yeah. And they're top notch. They're not vinyl shutters.
No.
They're either composite or they're steel, correct? Is it steel or metal?
Aluminum.
Aluminum. Okay. I knew I'd mess that up, but okay. But they're beautiful, and it doesn't really matter what they're made out of, but they are long lasting and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
So take a look at that. Kristen, is there anything else you'd like to share before we close up our awesome conversation today?
I just encourage everybody, read Dr. Sabrina's book, take this plunge, go and start to do it today. Like, really, the sooner you start, the sooner you can get there. And if it takes you longer than the 18 months, it takes you longer than the
It's
18
okay.
months. Like, it doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
can't get there, right? Like, celebrate
Mhm.
the wins depending on where you are. If you are a solopreneur, it might be a little bit longer to get to where you can start getting a team, but it can be done. And
Mhm.
this can be a really fun world being a business owner. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to have all of the stress. Find your tribe, find your people, listen to Women Talk Construction as often as you can, because I will
Yes.
tell you,
Woohoo.
you also hear, one of the reasons I love, I'm going to plug y'all. One of the reasons I love listening to Women Talk Construction is because I have heard so many people from different industries that I didn't even know existed. Like, and thriving, right? Like, the
Yes.
journeys are so great. There's I'm going to be 50 this year, and there is no one way to get to where you need to go.
Mm-mm.
And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not still in this business 10 years from now, then so be it, because that's just the path. Like, there's so many amazing opportunities out
Yeah.
there. Find your dream and live it.
Yeah, I love it. That's a
Yeah.
great place to end. Well, this video will also be on YouTube for a very long time, hopefully forever. So, those of you who didn't get to listen to the entire video or watch the video, listen to it or watch it, it will be on YouTube. We're also going to offer this to our nonprofit members forever, as long as they want to watch it, because we want them to be able to just glean the information that you all have provided for us today. As Women Talk Construction, we're really very focused, Angela and I, on just making your life better. And this
Mm-hmm.
particular live was so you can take your life back. We don't want you to feel burnout. We want you to feel like, you know, you have joy in every day of your life. And sometimes we get so stuck in a rut that the joy just kind of dwindles out. And we want you to light your fire back. So hopefully that this conversation will help you light your fire. And we really do care about you and care about your future. And we're looking forward to our next live. Thank you, Dr. Sabrina and Kristen, for joining us today. We really appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.